Not right now because
Yeah.
actually here, maybe I should let you try to log it in. Here.
No, sir. Why do you have to log in an Optimal? Why you just
Because
log in
it doesn't
Wi-Fi?
automatically tap in.
What do you mean? You can just log into my Wi-Fi? Bob?
No, that cell phone doesn't auto recognize every Optimum network.
What the hell are you talking about?
Huh?
What the hell are you talking about?
If I'm at somebody's private house, I have to log into their.
Bob, you can't be messing with my camera over here. Oh,
Episode 1.
that's listen, so
That stuff tastes good.
episode 1, here we go.
Did you already log into the Zoom?
I'm in, baby.
All right.
I'm already in. Just want to make sure I can hear everything. Cheers, sugar.
All right. So now let me get.
Yeah, Babs, open up. I think I can get in.
All right, go.
Okay. I think I remember. See if this works. Keep your mouth closed.
Yeah.
Device name, Babs. What is this?
Then it's fine. I got.
What is the device name?
I'm in.
Recording
Okay,
in
good.
progress.
I've never seen this before, Babs.
All right.
Can you?
So
You might
it's
need help.
already.
Oh, Babs. Every time.
All right. So we're just gonna wait for Birds to tap in, and then
The
we'll
cat
go
are on?
from there. Yeah, my camera's on. So now
All
I'm
right,
gonna
we're-
stop video for a minute.
You have to turn your sound off.
Holy tweets, sound off. I'm muted. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna leave just for a few minutes so it doesn't give that annoying echo, and then I'll tap back in.
It wouldn't give that echo as soon as you tap back in.
Let's find out.
Or I'll just log out and I'll hop in over here with you.
Recording in progress.
All right, does it? No, it still gives the.
Watch this. Hold on.
Feedback.
I'll put me on mute.
Can you hear me? I've never had this problem before. Modern technology.
Okay. Your microphone's pick me up now.
Okay. Oh, maybe I should.
Angle it a little better.
What do you think now?
Yeah, I'll pop it with it. You messed me right now.
Not necessarily. All right, we just got to give Burger a little time. Let's give Burger like 10 minutes and then we'll start. The link's already set to record.
We record?
Mhm.
This is official?
We're gonna start at 6 on the dot.
The first one.
First one.
Let's get Ferg on. Make sure the sound is all right.
Yeah.
What time we got?
5:48.
Oh, we got plenty of time.
Yeah, we got 10 minutes.
Or maybe should I put the headphones in?
Try headphones.
Should I put my earbuds in?
How is it gonna work if you guys doing it in the same room?
Oh, there's gonna be an echo, isn't there?
Yes.
Should I move over there?
I'll just sit next to you.
Okay. I may only do one.
All right, I'm in.
I don't hear that much of an echo now. So then this was actually a smart idea.
You doubted me?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Mm-hmm.
no.
I did.
Excuse me?
Not gonna lie, I did.
That's teaming up against me already?
No,
No. Never.
Wait, so is Catter not gonna be on this?
I'm not sure. I asked him, sometimes he has things coming up.
That's gonna be a how now brown cow. Wow, look at that stud.
Oh, yeah,
No gang signs.
of course not.
That's your feet is slow as shit.
Huh? God, this jalapeno pizza is heaven.
Where's it from?
Bellows down the street,
Down the street, where? What town?
Golden's Bridge.
You should get some behind the scenes candid shots.
I will. Don't worry, I will.
We are also going to ask you to look up some
There they are. What we doing, fellas?
On LA.
You there?
Babs, what's up, man?
Not much. All right. So, Brendan, introduce yourself to us and let us know what you've been up to since the end of high school.
Babs, what are the rules here? Is there, we're being recorded.
I came up
What's
with a
this being
list.
used for?
It's basically simple. Think sort of little around the horn style. I
Okay.
came up with topics that
I saw your
are going
script.
to be discussed. Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's going to be around the horn style. We were just discussing the enemy situation.
You're scoring us. It's around the horn.
No, I'm not
Gotcha.
scoring.
Gotcha.
All right. So first, give us a little intro and let us know what you've been up to.
All right. Obviously, my name's Brendan Berger. I've been since high school. I went into Springfield College. Was there for 4 years. Once I graduated, I did a internship with the Dolphins, which then led to an opportunity with the Jets. And I spent 6 seasons with the Jets. Took opportunity at UCLA.
Yes, baby.
Oh,
That's right. Took opportunity at UCLA for 3 years. Moved back to the East Coast. Spent 2 years at Rutgers University as assistant AD, and then I got the opportunity to come out and work for the Los Angeles Rams. So I've been here the last.
And you got to
4 seasons.
experience a Super Bowl winning organization.
I did, and Ricky was there for the big one.
I wish I could have been there at that game, but
Next one,
at
Beth.
least now, 1 year later, maybe I'll be able to come to a Super Bowl week with you guys and be able to meet all the people that I pretty much watch now. Because,
especially if the Jets are in it.
oh yeah,
If
that's what I really want.
We gotta get you on Radio Row, Babs.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you know all the NFL Network, ESPN personalities I want to friggin' have the honor to be in the same room with.
Yep, that would be quite an honor.
Pretty soon they're going to be honored to be in the same room.
Especially just to be around Pat McAfee and the NFL Access crew, ESPN and all that. So we were just talking about what football was sort of like in the 1990s and the early 2000s. Remember the oversized shoulder pads, cowboy collars, broken horse tackles. I mean, even yourself when you started with the Dolphins and the Jets.
Yep.
How do you feel sports has evolved in the last decade, especially?
Well, I mean, it's just like it has from the start, Babs, and all these every sport, right? The athletes are just getting better and better, right? Years ago, it started out athletes had 2 jobs, they were athlete and they go home and work another job in the off season. Now this is their one concentration. The only thing they have to worry about is their livelihood. And not only for this, but for most of these guys, it sets them up for the rest of their life, so they don't need to work again, really. So the athletes are just getting that much better, bigger, faster, stronger, and then evolution of the game itself, has been helped. Obviously, for a league like the NFL, it's such a big business. When superstar players can't play because they're injured, it's not good. So, implementing rules to keep players safe and avoid injuries have really pushed the leagues. And that's a big concern to owners and everyone to keep their assets on the field, right? Every Sunday, each team puts, $250 million on the field worth of players, so with them getting hurt, it's not helping their business. So that's my quick, in a nutshell, evolution of the games here. Bab, you're on mute, buddy.
Oh, now we're here. All right, thanks for pointing that out. I always felt with these owners that they, for whatever strange reason, not all of them seem to care about the players' safety, but I would say DeMar Hamlin this year, I think finally showed these owners that you really do need to start caring about the safety of these players.
Well, there's only so much these owners could do about the safety of the players on the field. What's that? I don't know for a fact, but I'm sure the NFL spends billions of dollars for the new helmets and doing studies to keep these players healthy. They want their stars on the field, they're assets. They're very expensive assets.
Yeah, but look at how the Dolphins just handled Tua Tagovailoa this year, where
that was an independent. I guess they're getting paid by the NFL, but that's an independent doctor who cleared him to play. Had nothing to do with the Dolphins.
But even still, you're risking somebody's literal not just mental health, but you're risking his long-term health, just to be able to win games.
Didn't want to go back on the field himself.
Oh, no, Tua is a competitor and wanted to go back on the field himself. But I felt like with somebody like Tua, he could have just, he should have probably sat out a little longer because you've seen those concussions like that before with other players. It's especially the last decade. I feel like it's gotten a little worse in terms of, seeing these freak injuries. But now I think Brendan's right. The protocols are getting better.
And these guys are getting bigger, faster, stronger too. So these head injuries are a lot more common now. Or at least we're more aware.
The equipment's getting better. The equipment's getting better.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because you're an equipment manager and you've seen it yourself. Am I correct?
That's correct. The helmets and padding are getting better, in the players' favor.
Well, it was better, especially from when we were in high school. I would say they probably took more time to manufacture and just and follow all the, the guidelines that these people wanted. Correct?
Absolutely. Even helmets now, a lot of these helmets are custom fit to the player's head. So there is no give and no pockets there to guys' heads to move inside their helmets.
Would you say offenses, and not just the NFL, they did a lot of rule changes, I noticed, within the MLB, the NHL, and even the NBA, where, they do consider safety as well. Because, even here was one of the saddest things I didn't enjoy seeing, especially back in 2020 before COVID, when the NBA lost Kobe Bryant that young. That was a tough time for the league. To lose somebody that talented who was doing a lot of entrepreneurial stuff. There's another topic I wanted to hit on because I know you've been in, football for quite a while. Would you say that today's NFL players, especially within this generation, the millennials, going down a generation, are getting better with how they handle their finances? Or would you say it's about even to how older generations, when they went broke leaving football?
Well, I think you're always going to see that, unfortunately. I think that really comes more from upbringing. I know teams now put a lot of emphasis into, educating players. I know NFL teams have financial advisors come in, everything you think of to teach guys how to save money, how to invest into real estate, whatever they want to do, right? There's usually a hook. If a guy was looking at real estate, hey, we have a guy helping them out, teach them along, coach them up along the way. There's programs set up for, hey, if a guy left college early and didn't finish college, you can go back and finish your degree, during the summers. They have programs set up for all this kind of stuff, for guys to kind of continue education, really for life after football, because most of these guys only make 3 seasons or less, so they'll make enough.
That is the average career these days. That's the knock against it. One of my favorite YouTube creators discusses athletes, actually, and some of their how much money they've made over their whole sports career, how they negotiated their contracts. Spencer Cornelia's YouTube channel discusses this a lot. And that was always interesting to me, especially when he looked at the generation right above us, with players like Mark Brunell, Kurt Warner, players we grew up watching, Peyton Manning. I mean,
Kerry Collins.
Who?
Kerry Collins.
Kerry Collins. Although I don't know what financial decisions he made, but I remember coming across a video of Mark Brunell who made a lot of very poor financial decisions, while he was even in the league.
Sure.
There were videos that came out about him making effectively very poor real estate decisions.
Well, you have a lot of leeches. You have a lot of hanger-ons that are,
And that's
trying to rob these guys it's tough.
That's probably why people like Mike Vick ended up in jail, because he messed too much with a lot of his old friends who weren't exactly doing good things either.
Sure.
Would you agree with that or disagree with that?
Of course, but yeah, obviously he has some of that responsibility himself too.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I remember, was it 2012 or 2011? I think he did at least own up and start making those changes, but he should have been doing that when he was a little younger. Because to have to actually go serve in prison sentence the way he did at that young point in his career, or in the middle of his career, I felt kind of screwed him up.
Yeah.
Plaxico Burress, great example of that too.
Oh my God, Plaxico was a huge knucklehead.
Yep.
Carrying a gun at a club.
He was a knucklehead. I think he made one really bad decision.
Well, still carrying a firearm in New York City to a nightclub, that will serve to be the worst decision of his life.
It was.
Okay, so what would you have? Here's a good question. Ticket prices. Are ticket prices more expensive now to see a Rams game versus maybe what they were like in the 2000s? Have ticket prices gone up?
Oh yeah, of course. Ticket prices go up almost every year, year over year.
Is part of it because the owners are selling PSLs, which are personal seat licenses, or is it more based on the types of players they're bringing in? Like, for example, before your Super Bowl season, Matthew Stafford was a very high-priced free agent to bring in for the Rams, but it definitely paid off because you guys got a Super Bowl through that. Correct.
And it doesn't go year to year based off, your roster, based off the value of the ticket. But it's also Babs, like, you're compared to 10, 15 years ago, but anything 10, 15 years ago costs less money than it does now. Just natural inflation, right?
Listen, I'm not crazy about the ticket price going up, but as long as we keep paying it, they're going to be raising the price.
Well, yeah, that's the other
Correct.
problem. That's the other thing, because at the end of the day, unfortunately, sports is also a business, just like going to a concert.
Correct.
Of course, because we want to see our favorite players. We want to be entertained. And of course, we're going to be, stupid and want to see it, while we can. Listen, I'll say this. If I could have the chance to see Lionel Messi play in person, I would pay that ticket price.
Sure. That's a good point. Yeah.
I would have loved to, I would have loved to basically blow a fortune just to go all the way over to Qatar and just see one game for once in my life.
Blow a fortune?
I'm being sarcastic, but I'm saying just to be able to see someone within our own age group, have the success that they do, in these sports. You're right. Unfortunately, there is a cost to this, and they'll keep raising prices where they can because of the player contracts.
Everyone wants to see greatness with their own two eyes. I want to see it live. It's nothing like it.
Well, Bev.
I mean, yeah.
Bev, I think the other thing you got to keep in mind is how much, say, in the last really more 20 years, from now to call 20 years back, how much sports has become corporate, right? So many corporations are buying tickets and suites and stuff. I was noticing that very slowly, that everything started to go more corporate from 20 years ago versus what it is today.
I mean, we all saw on that. I mean, come on.
Well, this is true. I mean, if I remember correctly, isn't the owner of your team married to the daughter of the Walton family?
Yes, he is.
And I also know they just bought the two brothers just bought the Denver Broncos, if I remember correctly, because they gave Russell Wilson that ridiculously large contract, right?
Correct. They bought that team.
I look
I mean, look, it's the Waltons. They really are. Their father was really a success story. They benefited off everything he did by building up the Walmart Corporation. So there's an argument, like you say, for the fact that we all pay the ticket prices, and you're right, it has gone more corporate. Because I mean, I even looked at I'll be honest, even as a New York Jet fan, with you who also worked for the Jets, Woody Johnson is capable of spending the money, but unfortunately, Woody Johnson has also gone through almost 20 coaches over the time that he bought the team. Whereas when Robert Kraft got Bill Belichick for the Patriots, notice how over 20 years he's only had one coach.
I mean,
that was a unique situation. He
that's
kinda got
true.
lucky with it, too.
Yeah,
Although
he
I
struck-
think
struck
most
gold.
of BB's
He kind of stepped in SHIT with Bill Belichick with the chaos that he had Pete Carroll there, and he loved Pete Carroll, and Belichick was with the Jets for a minute.
Yeah,
Browns.
could have went.
not
bad.
even
Could've went bad
Irish
real
as
quick.
head coach of the NYJ was the most famous thing ever. And also, to be fair to Belichick,
Yep.
most of Belichick's success is really more due to the fact that you had a Hall of Fame quarterback cover up for the fact that he was not always good with picking skill position players. He could draft offensive linemen, he could draft defensive players, but he whiffed in free agency. I think he's great as an NFL head coach, but then when he wanted to do the double duty of being an executive, that's
think
where
that
most
was-
people criticize.
I think that was more of his ego saying I could take whoever and make it work.
Albert Hainsworth, there was a royal contract mess up. And the red flags were there for somebody like Albert Hainsworth, which he knew about.
I thought the ridiculous contract with Hainsworth was what they were then, the Redskins. I thought that was absurd.
The Redskins always do that. So, hold on, Aaron.
Cat's trying to get in?
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. We'll give him a moment anyway. So we have one more person coming on momentarily. Okay. So now that we discussed the ticket prices being reasonable, new segment. Unreasonable. I was being sarcastic. Okay. All TV contracts or networks, which I also think probably added to a lot of the ticket prices, whether we agree or disagree. Since you have worked for an NFL team, you've worked for a college team, and you interned and worked with an NFL team, how huge do the networks play into the owners' revenue sources or the ownership's income source? Because I would imagine running a team, there's a lot of different contracts that they have to do.
Yeah, but networks run the show. I mean, they signed a $110 billion deal with the networks, a little over a year ago. So networks run the show.
Didn't they also just ink a huge deal with Amazon Prime, which, funny enough, I would have never imagined Amazon Prime wanting to get in on the NFL action.
Yeah, and that's counted into that network deal.
I mean, Amazon, funny enough, I'm going to say this from a business perspective, to watch that evolution of a company in the 1990s when we were all kids to what it is today, that's just impressive what that company was able to do. Because famously, if we all remember, what did Bezos say in 1998 was going to happen? The model was unsustainable, and look at it 18 years later.
I'm trying to remember what I used Amazon for when I was growing up. I think it was like textbooks.
Amazon had started out as an online bookstore,
Yeah, it was a bookstore.
and basically, they would pick the book for you from vendors and then send it to you via mail service courier. He said famously to his investors, this was going to be an unsustainable business model. I'm probably going to go broke in 2 years. And then when the dot-com bubble first burst in 98, then they started taking off in the 2000s. How funny is that look at them now, 2 decades later?
Crazy.
Especially with all the money he made during coronavirus.
Yeah.
So the networks, especially when you factor in one question, since you've been in the league for a while, Are most of the big networks tied to Walt Disney Company? I know ESPN is. Is NFL Network its own?
NFL Network, Fox, CBS, they're their own deals.
But
It's
they're their own
ABC,
companies as well, right?
ABC, ESPN are separate. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, one thing I will say, because we're going to be getting into college at some point, another thing is I never would have imagined how social media, to an extent, as we were growing up, there's something else that we can all, sit there and, gab about. When did you guys get your MySpaces originally, if you remember that network? Because we all cheated on them for Facebook.
I never had MySpace.
Yeah, I didn't have a
Facebook,
MySpace.
Sophomore year of college, my college roommate Johnny Boy made me get it.
Yeah, I got
My colleagues.
my freshman year of college. It used to be you could only get it if you were at a university.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And actually, I was on my coworker at the movie theater in Mount Kisco at that point. Funny enough, I ended up back in Mount Kisco almost 2 decades later. No, my coworker Rob, who graduated Wappingers High School, class of 2005, Arlington High School, got me on MySpace. It was their idea, and then only a couple years later, after 2005, 6, 7, 8, Facebook opened up. I had Facebook till about a couple years ago, and then now it's no longer whatchamacallit. I mostly use LinkedIn. But it's funny to see how sites like Facebook, Instagram, which, is under the Facebook umbrella, and Twitter even, now became centerpieces in the NFL. So my question to you would be this. With social media, how did social media effectively help the NFL and other sports leagues begin to reach younger fans? What was it? What were some of the strategies that they implemented?
You're saying Facebook, social media as a whole, Babs, or?
Yes. For example, not just the NFL, what would you say went into the decision with the other leagues to start adopting onto social media?
You got to think, Babs, you could reach audiences you couldn't reach anywhere else, right? Remember back when we were growing up, I could only watch the Dolphins games when they played the Jets twice a year, right? or they had a Monday night, or they had a Monday night game, right? So if you're a fan of a team out of market, you couldn't see your team or know what was going on with your team. Now with social media and the internet, you can follow your team just as easily as you can follow the Jets or Giants in New York, right? That's the beauty of it to me, And now these players get more exposure every day, right? You could walk past a football player back years ago and not even know they're a football player because you never saw their face, right? Because they have a helmet on. Same with a hockey player, right? Now they can kind of make their own little brand and are more recognized and can do some more endorsements and stuff like that because of social media.
Actually, it's funny that you were just talking about branding because I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, and interestingly enough, branding, what you just mentioned about branding and marketing definitely tie in a lot, because now I feel, especially what social media did for certain athletes, was it opened up a lot more. Actually, here's a good branding one for you, Pat McAfee.
You love McAfee.
I'll tell you one thing that I appreciate about somebody like that. We didn't hear a lot about him because no one ever really knew what the heck a punter mostly did.
Punts, but
no one cared about him. No one cared about the punter the way they did, even though he was on the Colts, the way they would Peyton Manning, because Peyton Manning was the most influential person. Now, when you look at when they both effectively retired as of 2017, Pat McAfee is a good lesson in basically how popular you can become marketing and branding yourself. I would definitely say, look at how huge he blew up.
You can market and brand yourself all you want, but if the talent's not there, you're not going to make it.
Well, yeah, because I would say there's a lot of hosts that definitely, could take. There are a lot of football hosts that I feel could learn from McAfee and what McAfee does.
You can't learn what makes McAfee great, though.
You on, Aaron?
Yo, I'm here. I'm just listening in, boys.
All right. Let's welcome back Aaron, everyone. Ricky, Rick and Berg.
What's up, Bo?
Aaron is part co-founder of Opinionated Collective, so it's great to have you back finally.
Finally, it's been a while, man. Glad to be back. Back in.
I know. So what have you? Yep, back in action. So we're discussing how sports today has actually look at what it's become in 20 years as we've all watched it ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, it's changed tremendously.
The topic we were just.
I heard social media. And actually, like just to speak on that point, I've worked with some like athletes that are kind of not the mainstream athletes, like Taylor Rapp, for instance, who's on the Rams. And we were doing this PSA campaign for Caltrans, which is like the California Transportation Division. And so like they hired him to come out and to like speak about, basically picking up litter, cleaning up California. And I'm sure they were using him as like, using his social media platform to get out that PSA and to get out that message. But it kind of mutually beneficial, but it also used him as like as a speaker and someone that can have a little bit of clout to sports fans or to people in California that might want to listen to an athlete say that as opposed to someone else.
Yep.
What were you just saying?
Lost you, Babs.
What were you saying?
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, Carter.
All right. Where did I lose you?
Start from the top. What were you saying?
Okay. All right. So basically what I was saying is in regards to social media and athletes, even smaller, not as well-known athletes can get can have, fans and have people that follow their accounts and follow them more personally. Like for instance, we just did a PSA with Taylor Rapp about cleaning up the trash and cleaning up California, and he was the spokesperson for that. So, whereas it might be too expensive for Caltrans to reach out to like a bigger name, they could get someone like Taylor Rapp who still has a draw with sports fans.
Right, and Vaz, I'll jump in there just because I know Taylor personally. So I'm cool with Taylor being in LA, right? He's an Asian American, right? Which hits home. We have a large Asian population here in Los Angeles, so when kids or people just see another Asian that's playing football, they might be drawn to that person, because they're like them, and that's a market that Taylor can reach through a PSA type thing that maybe, he wouldn't have that fan base without doing something like that.
That was exactly it, Burger. Yeah.
All right. So here's something that I think would be definitely bring up for a good discussion. Another thing that took off in the last decade, especially, we can thank Barstool Sports for this because this was a very early sort of platform, was gambling, sports gambling. Barstool, if I recall correctly, reading started out as a sports gambling website, and in most states, not gambling isn't always necessarily legal unless, like, you go to Las Vegas, for example. But sites like Barstool opened up the possibility that you could, now bet depending on what state you live in, but do it on the internet, without all the annoying regulations. So, what do you think are the pros and cons of sports betting before and then when it went online?
I mean, who wants to go first? Rick, you going first?
obviously all sports organizations are absolutely loving. And it's funny how hypocritical they were too. They separate themselves so much from gambling up until what, 5 or 6 years ago. Now it's just they embrace it. You can't listen to ESPN radio or WFAN without hearing a gambling ad every
I mean,
30
yeah, Rick.
seconds.
Every night they put the matchups coming on that night, and then they put the line right on the screen with it next to it. You know.
'Cause let's be honest. The product of sports has gone down, but the popularity of sports has gone up. Why? Because of football, especially because of fantasy football, and not because of gambling. And all the other sports have benefited from it too. And they're printing money right now because of, not all because of gambling, but that's a massive.
There's definitely been more attention paid to sports, especially because of, now you have access to be able to open accounts online to put money into, especially for gambling on football. But at the same time, I feel especially, who was the Falcons player, remind me, that got in trouble? Calvin Ridley, which was completely stupid, and he got suspended. I think access to gambling, especially for current players, shouldn't be allowed. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
No, absolutely, and I don't think it should be that easy. I don't want to sound like an old fart, but gambling is, you boil it down, it's a drug, and you're introducing this drug to people that can't handle it. And
you mean who already probably can't manage their money as it is?
Exactly.
Now they want to go bet on their team and bet on the spread
from their couch. It's scary.
But that's what technology has done now. Technology has made so many things that once you had to go to the casino for, more accessible. Not just gambling, but, we could go to a liquor store. Now you could get liquor delivered to you, via Amazon if you want. You don't have to go to the liquor store anymore.
Yeah.
So much technology has changed in front of, this current generation's, anyone in their 30s eyes. It's changed even my mind.
Hey, Vabs, you're cutting out a little bit.
I'm not sure if it's my phone or it's the program. Can you guys hear me now?
I got you.
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, so what I was finishing saying was pros and cons of sports betting, and we discussed social media a little when you came on. In terms of digital presences, like letting athletes have, specific accounts, like, for example, LeBron James, there's another good example of branding and marketing yourself as a player. I would say he was kind of that personality that was made for social media before, when it finally started getting more popular. What do you guys think?
Isn't every personality made for social?
Yeah, I think so. He ran with it, that's for sure. And now he has, a whole media company. What? So can't hear you. I don't know if I'm the odd one out here.
No, Catter, I can't hear me.
Okay. I was like, Babs, we can't hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
All right. We got you, Rick. Rick, I can hear
That was
you. I
real.
can hear Babs.
Babs, that was real meta when I didn't realize you guys were together.
All right, can you guys hear me now?
I was like, it's like a SNL skit.
Wait a minute. Still can't hear you, Babs.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I
unmute
got-
this phone. Oh, we got it. We got it.
All right, we got it. So the next part of this, topics, digital media presence. I definitely feel with certain people, Tom Brady, LeBron James, Lionel Messi, certain people like this definitely were good for social media and good for their leagues as well, respectively. They also brought a good marketing presence. Now, what do you guys feel, especially especially now that Brady's retired, when the oldest of the millennials begins to retire from sports, how do you think the younger athletes are going to handle the pressure?
I would say Patrick Mahomes handled it pretty well this year.
Aaron, go ahead.
I mean, it's just like in sports throughout history, right? I don't think you really think about, or maybe you do, but like personally, I guess if I was playing sports back in high school or college and someone or someone left that was older, I think it just allows you to step into their, to the opening there. I don't know if I don't know personally how it would affect the younger athletes in the NFL or other.
Well, isn't that what makes
No,
athletes great? It's the next guy up.
Yeah,
next
Babs,
guy
there's
to
always
take
gonna
those-
be
take those
someone's
reins.
always hungry to take that spotlight and take that fame and money or whatever you want to call it.
Just like every generation has their greatest of all time. You get the
Correct.
people that didn't see, or they saw Tom Brady play, but they also saw Joe Montana play, and those guys will argue to the death that Joe Montana is better than Tom Brady.
We didn't get to see Joe Montana play, but I would definitely say Brady is up there with him.
No, of course I would take Brady,
Brady is
but
the all-time
you get the
GOAT.
generation that saw Joe Montana play, and they said, okay, we'll take Joe Montana.
Well, that was because that was our parents' generation,
Sure.
some of the oldest of Gen X that were able to see, witness Joe Montana. I mean, if I remember correctly, we went to high school with someone whose father played for the Oakland Raiders, and he played against Joe Montana. We had a coordinator, if I remember correctly, who also played in the NFL from high school.
Sir.
Will Pickout or
Big Bill.
Big Bill.
Bill, yeah.
And Charlie
Big Bill.
West.
And Charlie West, who was also
West.
our defensive coordinator for John Jay. That,
Skull, baby. Skull.
I remember even when I left for college, I learned a tremendous amount from them, even Coach Jimmy Clark, because in a lot of ways, even what I'm doing today, where my work ethic came from was being with you guys.
Well, because you would show up late sometimes.
I never showed
you'd
up
have to run
late.
your
I showed up
opportunities.
early.
You have to run your opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah, or when the water
So-
wasn't cold enough.
Of course you would go there. Hey, if you think about it, a lot of that boiled over into what my work ethic was, post high school, because you learned a lot of that just within sports. All right, I thought this topic would be a little interesting because this was one of those things that I think you see more of today. And then I wanted to also discuss, an argument with Deion Sanders.
Whoa, all right.
So we're going to discuss name, image, and likeness, and the transfer portal, which is basically now college's version of NFL free agency. Back in the 2000s and the 1990s, you had to keep quiet about certain things in college, especially like, for example, if you wanted to, you couldn't take money up front, as college athletes can today. Now they can actually get literally paid to go to a lesser college they don't necessarily want to go to. Here's a good example of that. Travis Hunter last year decided to go all the way to Jackson State to be with Deion Sanders, the top number 1 rated cornerback out of high school, but he had offers to go to Florida State and Alabama, and Alabama coach Nick Saban complained about that because it's like you have all this money going around for the players to be able to literally be paid by boosters, but a decade ago, even A.J. Hawk and Pat McAfee said no one could do something like that.
But don't you think that would help with parity in college football? Because there is no parity right now.
Well, no, there's no parity right now. And that's probably one of the things that, makes the game now more interesting because nobody stays loyal to the college they started.
No, I mean, college football has always been a big business. But wouldn't you rather – I'd rather the players and the people involved get paid more so than who knows involved in the NCAA, one of the most corrupt organizations out there.
by the way, whose new NCAA president was now a Biden administration Secretary of Labor.
You had to get political, didn't you?
No, but
Oh
if
boy,
you
there he
think
is.
about it,
He
people
had to
like
get
that
political.
actually
He just
sadly
couldn't help
end up
himself.
getting those jobs that we would all love to have due to connections and network. All right, so Aaron and Brendan, tell me both what you both thought about what I just said in terms of name, image, and likeness, which is basically the NCAA version of giving a big contract to a player in the NFL, and then the transfer portal, which is free agency.
Well, I think like who should benefit right from these teams winning, and if it's not the players who are actually putting in the work to win championships and win and put them on the map and put them on on television and which allows for then all the marketing revenue or to come in through ads and stuff like that, then who else should get it? So I think they're more entitled than anyone to receive that money, and it should go to benefit them and their livelihood.
What was really sad, I thought, and then I'm going to let Brendan take over, is when the players couldn't directly take the money 2 decades ago. You could only do things like give them a free scholarship to go to the school, a free sweatsuit. Most likely, I bet that was tax deductible on some level. They had to probably get off-campus jobs to be able to pay for their apartments to stay dedicated to football in the summer, because the school wouldn't help them out at all with that, or just put them onto, financial aid. But now they can actually pay players, through the name, image, and likeness. So I agree with Aaron that the players should get the money just as much as the university, since the university was the one profiting off of this. What do you think, Brendan?
Well, I mean, I see both sides. I mean, yeah, the athletes should
there's both sides to it.
Athletes should get money, and the university's still going to make money off those athletes, so it kind of works out. The thing I don't like about it is you're really going to separate out some schools who can't afford to compete, right? It's really going to start dwindling down to, my opinion at least, the same 20 or so schools that can afford to keep throwing money at kids and getting top recruits and staying competitive, right? Where you used to be able to.
My argument is, isn't it that already though? Essentially.
Essentially, yes, Rick. Yeah, essentially. But you now it's even more divided. Now, you used to maybe have 35, 40 teams who can compete. Now you're really like 15 to 20, in my opinion.
Sure.
And yet Alabama can still pull in top 10 recruiting classes year after year after year.
Correct, because they've built that tradition and excellence there of football history. That kids still want to go there, just like kids will still want to go to Notre Dame if they whether they're not getting paid or not. But
absolutely.
It's just
Notre Dame does have a lot of tradition like Alabama.
Now, Babs, having worked in college, I'll tell you this though. I mean, come for a guy who took out loans to go to college. I saw some of these athletes get full scholarships, and then they do get help. They do get financial help. They get stipend monthly money on top of a scholarship. Plus, they get meals paid for. They have academic help, advising and help, tutors and such set up for them prior to enrollment in classes. You mentioned the gear and other things. So, I mean, they were getting a lot. In my opinion, I wasn't fortunate enough.
Sure, that's a very good
I wasn't
point.
athletically gifted enough to receive something like that. But, to me, that's still such a huge advantage and then opportunity to get a free education and a degree from a university, with some prestigious ties to it. And if they did play their cards right, you link in with some alumni and network yourself and line yourself up for a nice job, whether your career pans out or not. But obviously, if you're going to throw money at me on top of that, that's even better. Now I got the best of both worlds, so I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings about it personally.
Yeah, I can understand that because now you've actually worked in the NFL and college as well, and you've seen the athlete side, you've seen the student side, you've seen the business side. So yeah, you're right. I probably had that understanding because, and they do, I'm sure they probably do get some help, but where I went to college, Mercy College was a D2 school, and most of those athletes had to work jobs afterwards. Not all of them got to, just dedicatedly train. But they did go on to do, good things in their careers after Mercy College. So that was at least a good thing, because you're right. There were definitely tutors. There was definitely some good stuff set up for them as athletes. And then, they transitioned into other things post-college. But yeah, as far as your point about the best 20 teams, I would probably say,
Bev, you're talking, if there's 100 kids on a roster and say you had, 60, 70 scholarships, you're talking, at the average school, or you take an Alabama out of the equation, or, those top schools, and maybe 2 to 3 kids end up going pro in their career. It's a very small number percentage wise,
Yes.
What would you say the rest of those athletes do if they can't make the pros? They do go into other careers.
Yeah, they have to. Maybe they try to stay involved in athletics, some point, like myself or someone else, find another avenue to stay involved. But they got to get jobs, and that's part of the beauty of, hey, you went to UCLA and you went to Anderson School of Business, and you're going to get a degree from there, and that's worth just as much if you go out,
if not more.
Apply for a job, or hey, you got one of the best business schools, you got a degree for free. So to me, that there's still a lot of value in that. So that's why it's hard for me to go all in on the NILs, but I do understand them and think it's good that some athletes do get paid, because some schools definitely do take advantage of the athlete. I'm not doubting that. And if they're trying to get their brand going early in their life, in their career, and it's a good thing, for them. But it's tough. I see it both ways. I really do.
Yeah, yep. I can understand that
for sure.
Let's see, what was the other? There was something else I wanted to. Was it that one? Yeah, because I think the school that comes to mind, I remember, who was trying to unionize last decade. That was Northwestern, where Kafka, the offensive coordinator for the Giants, came out of. I remember seeing that in the news one day and was wondering, this would be an interesting thing if they could do something like that, where the players unionize against the colleges, because it would be a good idea. But you're right about the education and the fact that they do have to link up. They're going to have to figure something out. And how many did you say ever actually go pro? Like 3, or were you at UCLA when Wilson was quarterback?
It's a small percentage. We had a good run when I was at UCLA. I think we turned out 10 or 12 guys, but they made it in the NFL. But that's not common, And if you took all sports, right? If you took an entire college athletic department, right? So you're talking football, basketball, soccer, lacrosse, every sport. The overall percentage is like 2 or 3% go on and play next level. So that means call it 97% of those kids have to go out and get real jobs just like everybody else,
If you don't mind me asking, what were some of the careers that you would say these football players and other athletics went into, if they couldn't go pro in their league?
I would tell you a large percent of them want to stay involved. So either they try to get into coaching or recruiting or scouting, something of that matter. But, I saw a lot of players go into completely other things, computer design. UCLA was popular. A lot of them went into filmography, and they got into, into the Hollywood scene and producing and making movies, and we had some guys on the bottom end of the roster whose fathers had good hooks into Hollywood and helped some of those guys out. That was all part of the program, call it. But any career you can think of, Eps. They go out into the business world, entrepreneurs, or get a job working finance,
or become real estate agents, stuff like
real
that.
estate agents. Yeah, any job you can think of.
In the NFL, because whatever players make it to the NFL, you said the average NFL career or the average sports career is usually how many years?
I think the average NFL career now is 3 years.
Yes, the NFL is different than the other pro sports.
So you
but I,
think
yeah, I don't
this
know.
this younger generation, we're probably not going to see another Tom Brady.
Oh, never say never. I mean, you're talking about a generational player.
Well, again, I think the stars aligned with the coach and with Brady, and you get a guy that, the Joe Montana factor, the Joe Cool factor, but also that drive to get better and just the maniacal work ethic and just to dedicate his life. Obviously affected his personal life too, his marriage and whatnot. But to be that good, you got to sacrifice so much. So are we going to get a guy that would sacrifice that much for his craft? I don't know.
Right.
So here's a good one for Aaron, since Aaron played soccer. How much have you enjoyed watching Lionel Messi?
Oh, I mean, a lot. I mean, I personally haven't been watching as much soccer, like EPL or European League soccer as much. I don't know. I preferred playing it than watching it, but certainly watching the World Cup.
Understandable.
That
Right.
is actually understandable. Not everyone wants to sit there and watch a game. They'd rather play. But I would say this, especially with him and Ronaldo, they serve as good marketing examples as well. And they both, it's been interesting to watch two of them progressing in both their soccer careers to this stage where they're still able to play, even though they're getting up there.
Yeah.
Especially with the amount of money they've made in marketing deals, the insane amount of money Ronaldo just took to go to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It was an amazing World Cup this year.
Oh, that was
Wow.
a fun World
It was
Cup
an
to
amazing
watch
World Cup.
last year.
Yeah.
Although
Some of
I
those
wasn't a
games,
fan
like-
of the country that they selected for it, it proved to be a great tournament.
I think only like 6,000 people died working on the stadium. So
That's it. It was only about 6,000.
There
Yeah,
was only
that's
about
it.
6,000.
Wasn't
but
that
even
what-
still.
It wasn't that bad.
it wasn't that bad, I
Oh,
mean,
God.
consider those beautiful stadiums they built.
My only question is,
I feel
do
bad
we
laughing
think
about
those
it.
hotels
I know,
and
it's
the
terrible, but
economy
it's
is
like-
going
I know,
to
it is.
survive.
This like,
It's going to sustain itself and survive.
what was the question, Beth?
Do you think Qatar is going to suffer the fate of the last three World Cup hosts and the Olympic hosts?
I've been seeing a lot of Qatar commercials on a lot of Visit Qatar commercials on TV.
Well, they have a
only-
beautiful airline, so
Very. Yes, they
I'm
have a very
sure
beautiful
they'll figure
airline.
it out, but I always saw, for example, the United Arab Emirates, their neighboring country, as an example of a diversified economy, which wasn't too reliant on, one source. But then you look at Russia. Russia completely cracked after hosting the World Cup.
well,
Let's see,
yeah,
Brazil's
in Brazil,
economy tanked 1 year later.
well, they build all these like stadiums that just don't function afterwards, right? So it's,
Exactly, but yeah, that just sit.
From my knowledge, Babs, there's a lot of money in Qatar there that they're not worried about it right now. But.
right.
Even though I'm sure that was a reasonably large portion of their economy and jobs,
I think it was
it's
I think it was about $200 billion. They said they put into infrastructure, and then I mean they were importing a lot of those workers from other countries. Unfortunately, that passed away. And again, nobody wants to talk about that. I think that's pathetic. But
no, they don't want to talk about that.
Why
I
would
mean,
we talk about this?
Right.
why would we talk about that? But
Yeah,
but at least we get to see a World Cup jointly hosted between three countries in 2026 now. The United States, Canada, and Mexico. And that will be interesting because I believe these three countries are better equipped to survive the afterwards.
I sure hope so.
The United States was the one country that survived hosting the World Cup.
I don't know.
solo
I heard
back in
the cartel might take
1994.
over.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. We can only speak
I
about
would
it.
say that
Easy.
only
Easy,
because they're
Babs.
closer
Easy,
to the
Babs.
Mexican border.
Oh,
Rabs.
Babs, you got to put that back.
No, I'm
Slide.
just kidding.
Put the tape measure
All right,
back.
edit that part out.
Yeah, that'll be edited out
You
later
better-
on. Don't
You
worry.
better edit that out.
All right, so
Hey, Babs.
College and the NFL in the 1990s versus today. Would you say injuries got worse or better or more manageable from the 90s to today?
I mean,
In college, you're saying?
College and the NFL.
Injuries have gone down, you're saying?
No, have they gotten worse or become more manageable?
I think they've become more manageable with, better medicine practices. Better knowledge of playing surfaces and equipment like we were talking about earlier. Injuries are going to be part of all sports. It's just part of it.
and I think what we see, I think what we see as injuries increasing is teams being more careful because they have so much money tied up with these players
Correct.
that
Correct.
the little things that these guys used to play with, now they're saying, listen, I'm paying this guy $40 million a year. Let him sit out a couple weeks. I think that's played a big part of it.
Right.
Well, you saw how the Jets handled Zach Wilson and his injuries.
You always got to go back to the Jets.
Hey,
Yeah.
well, that's just an example, but there are some quarterbacks that are not thoroughly convinced, take the game as seriously. I'm sure Wilson takes the game seriously.
Are you talking
but-
about Kyler Murray?
No, I actually like Kyler Murray. What do you think of Kyler Murray?
I think I'm not sold on Kyler Murray. I don't think
I'm not.
I think he sees matchups. I don't think he sees the game. I think he sees
I think he's an
matchups.
absurd athlete, and he's hid his. I'm trying to word this rightly, but
His
correctly. But
douchiness.
no, douchiness. Okay, that's exactly what I was thinking about. That's what took me the time. No, I mean he's an absurd athlete. He's but that's kind of hidden his deficiencies in the past.
Like the fact that he runs too much.
I got no problem with that. I mean, my quarterback runs a ton.
Giants also have a better offensive line.
Not by much.
A little bit.
They're working on it.
That was the one weakness with the Jets, by the way, for, since Mangold and Ferguson, who Brendan, I believe, were.
Easy on my boys, Babs. Easy on my boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, your boys both retired. The Jets couldn't replace them.
Well, I think that's the thing that a guy like Kyler Murray doesn't get yet is that look at a guy like Tom Brady. Like you have to dedicate yourself. Or I'll use my boy Eli Manning, who didn't have the most talent in the world, but just dedicated himself to football. I don't know how much time he put into watching film and all that. It showed, and you got to be that way.
I mean, Rick, you talk about those guys. You talk about guys who took a little less money to have a supporting cast.
And that too. Yes, exactly.
Yes, Brady. I will give Brady credit on that for being the GOAT because he
Can't
took
believe I
less
left
money.
that out.
Although the criticism with Brady is his wife was worth millions of dollars.
You can't hold
when he
that against
married
him. Come on.
Oh no, I don't hold that against him. It just means he didn't need as much money as he thought.
I guess
Babs,
maybe that's
are
why
you jealous, Fab? There, he's that.
Yeah, it sounds like he's jealous. Come on.
Nah, I ain't
You
jealous.
can't make it so obvious.
I ain't jealous.
Yeah, you gotta.
Well, I guess
you gotta
maybe that's
mask
why
that a
we'll
little
never
better,
see a
Babs.
Tom Brady again because we'll never see a guy that would put the team over
Well,
himself.
that was the one thing I could respect.
Because
about
I think
him
we're
is he
getting more
put his
selfish and
team-
selfish, right? I mean, it's more me.
Right.
me,
Would you
me,
say
me,
Aaron
than-
Rodgers is selfish?
And that's my problem with
He can
as we were
act
talking about
selfish,
earlier.
yes.
As we were talking about earlier, that's my problem with these brands and starting these kids so young is that it becomes me,
Mhm.
I, and less about a team.
Let's use LeBron James breaking the scoring record as an example. Look at the celebration. It was one of the most awkward celebrations I've ever seen in my life. His teammates,
I
He
thought
wouldn't
that was.
even-
I thought the whole thing was absurd.
it was absurd. He wouldn't have acknowledged
Yeah.
his teammates. Wouldn't acknowledge him. He wouldn't acknowledge his teammates. Watch when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did it, and
Yep.
Magic Johnson's hugging him. James Worthy's hugging him.
We're talking about older generations. Who
I'm just
understood-
saying, yeah. Now it's
We're
me,
talking
me,
about
me
older
more
gen.
than-
We're looking at it's a tale of three different generations. For
Mhm.
example, our parents, Gen X, understood that you had to work together and collaborate as a team, while the individual at the same time could be in position to break records. But then you're looking at LeBron James today, who's I would agree on that point about how LeBron James branded himself. He's a genius in
brand himself.
branding himself.
Building
That's
super teams though. Like he makes his own team. He calls a shot.
well, because he couldn't win a championship on his own.
Correct.
Kobe,
Nobody
to an
can.
extent,
Nobody can.
rest in peace, needed Shaq, but Kobe also had one additional complimentary piece before he retired, which
But he
was
knew
Pau
that.
Gasol. But Kobe at the same time could go between me player and then team player.
Yeah.
And there weren't
That's
too,
Yeah,
what
there
but
weren't too
Kobe
many
Kobe
athletes that
never
outworked
Kobe never
either.
went out and made his own team up. You know, people
No,
wanted to go
and
play with
that
Kobe.
was the one thing I didn't like about LeBron is that LeBron couldn't win by himself. He needed two other people to be able to win with him and complement.
I mean,
Well,
let's not diminish LeBron, but
I
LeBron,
don't diminish.
he's
him.
1B. I'll take Jordan 1A. LeBron's 1B. LeBron's tremendous. He's one of the best athletes I've ever seen play. But yeah,
Ever.
you know, yes.
He couldn't win on his own. Shaq needed Kobe.
Nobody wins on their own, Babs. He needed somebody,
No,
but
of course not.
I don't like how he went about. Hey, we're gonna go to Miami and we're gonna bring these guys with me, and you know, I would have liked him to have brought maybe two guys to Cleveland with him. You know, but
Sure.
that's just me. That's just me personally.
And Kyrie was in Cleveland before him, right? Kyrie was there.
Correct.
Well, obviously it was LeBron, and
My
LeBron left.
buddy,
And then,
who's from Boston, doesn't even like Kyrie Irving either, and said Kyrie was very selfish on his own.
I just think there's something to being loyal to a team and being a career player. That's pretty cool. Like, you know, Kobe did and Jordan, you know, well, Jordan didn't at the end, but for the most part.
for the most part, yeah.
Well,
You know,
early
or
on,
a
guy
in
like
Jordan's
Derek Jeter.
career, yeah.
Or, yeah, Jeter or Eli or,
Yep.
you know, some of these guys who spent a whole career, you know, mangled, you know.
Yep.
Now Aaron Judge is going to be the same guy. You know, he's going to be a career guy, you know.
Let's hope. Yeah, I mean, obviously the contract, but you know,
That was a good Aaron Judge. I don't care what anyone says. Aaron Judge earned that contract.
Of course. But that's going to be
Yeah,
the
good.
difference between A-Rod and Jeter, right? A-Rod will never be loved like Jeter was because he's not a career guy.
No, A-Rod will never be loved like Jeter, but A-Rod contributed immensely to the Yankees' success in 2009. We couldn't have won that World Series without A-Rod.
no, MVP.
Yeah.
But then everything went downhill after that. He got discovered with steroids.
They all took it. They all took
Oh,
it.
yeah, no, they all took it because that's
Except
the
Jeter,
steroid
except for
era.
Derek Jeter. That's it.
All right, so here's a great question. Since you've been working in the NFL, I think we touched on it a little earlier, but here's a good one. Well, we touched on injuries. Analytics.
How we doing?
How has the evolution of stat taking with organizations and teams and data evolved in the last decade? Because there's been a huge focus on this.
Yeah, Bab, say it again. You got a little low there.
Evolution of statistics and data and how data is accumulated.
Sabermetrics.
Yep. So a big piece of my job is making sure these things are tracked, right? We put RFID chips into players' pads, players' helmets, players' cleats. We're tracking what they're wearing and what's being used to help get some of that data. And then Zebra technology comes in, and that's how you get those next gen stats and the live stats on TV that you guys see. So it's huge. It's a huge deal, and it's a big deal with the NFL and Zebra. A lot of money is exchanged, and to get those, those quick updates to your fantasy team that everyone wants to see, right?
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
So when you started in the league, what was it like when they took statistics? How has that changed?
Vab, say that one more time.
How has the collection of data changed from when you started in the NFL to today?
When I first started, it was the old school. First there was none, and then it turned into,
Clipboard.
The league sent out a survey at the end of the year. Okay, hey, what players wore which helmets, and it was really up to guys like myself to turn it in, and so the numbers were all skewed probably. But now it's live every week before the game. They know exactly what cleats, what pads, and what helmets the guys are wearing.
So with all the brands, they basically do a huge collection of data week to week to see what brands they're wearing, like Nike and Adidas.
Correct. You can see everything. You can see what brand helmet, what brand shoulder pad, what brand cleats they're wearing.
That's very interesting. Now, let me ask you something. It's more of a career-related question. I've worked with some data, but what kind of jobs can somebody do with data within the sports industry? Like, what would analysts do initially? Or what do they do? Do they do, like, if
the
you
analysts
bring
do?
on a business, if you bring on a business analyst from like the corporate world, what would he be doing for a sports team?
Oh, so I mean, football is huge into it now, but I mean, baseball is the originator of data and analysis, right? Tracking stats and playing the shifts and all the other kind of fun things they put into their game. But we use the stats not only for player stats and contracts and everything else we look at, to see if a guy's what his trajectory looks like, if he's going to be worth X amount of dollars or what the numbers say, but also, physically, we can see how many yards the guys are running, right? We can see what kind of mileage is on their body and how many throws the quarterback's made over the course of a season, right? Just like I know popular when talking contracts in baseball, right, with the pitchers, how many innings are on their arm over their career, right? A lot of times that comes down to more important, pitch count and innings is more important to a team than wins and losses, right? Because, hey, this guy's got, he's played 10 seasons, but hey, he's got 13 seasons worth of innings on his arm. Like, that's a big deal. So stats come in huge like that.
All right. And then these are going to be my last two topics today. First, we're going to start with something that I think we can all relate to as a group. Coaching. When we were all growing up, I think the coaches we probably had today would probably be in their mid-70s to somewhere in their 80s. But have you felt like coaching has gone more from disciplinary and team coaching to more managing, more player friendly and less, about the team from when we grew up to what we see now? So we're the oldest of coaches would be silent generation and the oldest of baby boomers, and then baby boomers to Gen X to millennials.
So you're talking like Vince Lombardi to Bill Walsh to Sean McVay.
Yeah.
Or basically you could look at today's equivalent, which would be Andy Reid down to Robert Saleh to Sean McVay.
Well, I mean, I think that's been the natural progression through sports. You hear, like, we look back and hear stories about, Bear Bryant, about some of the stories that, they did, or someone will look back at our generation and hear some of the stories about what happened with us and say, oh my God, that's the same way we did with Bear Bryant. I think it's a natural progression, but, speaking from someone who needed a disciplinarian coach, I think it was great for me. I think it helped me out big time. I don't think the coaching these days would have gotten through to me as much as the coaching back then did with the coaches I had in high school and college. I think I needed that kind of coaching to get through. I was a bit.
So when you started in the NFL, Burger, I remember correctly.
You know what I'm talking about,
right?
Yep.
What's that, Babs?
What was it like to work with Eric Mangini for 6 years? But in your 6 years, you worked with Eric Mangini and Rex Ryan. Then you worked with who were the UCLA coaches during your time there?
Jim Moore Jr.
Moore, baby.
Okay, and then you ended up working with McVay. Describe to us what the difference of their coaching were, because they were all different generations.
Correct, and I'll tell you what. Like, here's how I'm going to answer your question, Babs. I'd say, years ago it was the players fell in line with the coach, where now it's almost more you tailor the coach to your team, right? If you have an athlete called Patrick Mahomes, or if it's Matthew Stafford, right? It's really on the coach to make a system work for that athlete. Where it used to be, hey, you knew Bill Walsh ran this offense, and Tom Landry ran this kind of ball, right? Or Rex Ryan ran this kind of defense, and you built that. Now it's almost the opposite way, where you might see coaches go more before you see players go from teams, because players
100%,
yeah. So that's my opinion, is that the coach has to tailor to the player, right? The kind of the players are running the show, not the coach. Where it used to be, boom, coach ran the show, right? And there's a couple teams still does that, right? Bill Belichick, he still runs the show, right? But it's few and far between from what it used to be, right? You can rattle off old coaches, right? Whether it's Jimmy Johnson or Tommy Coughlin. I mean, you have coaches that, man, they ran the show and you fell in line, right? Now it's kind of the opposite way. If the coach and the players don't get along, guess what? Like,
Oh yeah,
Hey,
the coach.
but
will
remember,
coach the
getting-
job,
Getting back to
coach will-
getting
coach
back
will
to
get fired immediately.
Tom Coughlin too, because he was that way. And that's the story about the 07 team, is about how when Coughlin came back into training camp, guys like Michael Strahan, Strahan wanted to retire. Obviously, Tiki did retire because of the way Coughlin was, and they came back
Correct.
in 2007, and Coughlin had not completely changed, but changed up his whole MO.
yeah, he realized he needs to, yeah.
He said, "You know what? I got to change." And then look what happened.
Right. So
Yeah,
I think it's
that's
it's
just a
about
great
the
example
coaches.
of that.
I think it's the coaches evolving, not
Yes.
changing their deal. That's my
Yeah,
opinion.
the
Becoming
Coughlin
more
thing is a great example of that.
player-friendly coaches, and they're tailoring systems to players now. Versus where you had to, what was the term you used? You had to fall in line with coaches.
Right. It used to be, hey, quarterback had to come in, fall in line with the coach, right? And now maybe he had a defensive coach who wasn't great with quarterback. Then either you had to hire a great offensive coordinator, or a lot of times it's maybe that quarterback's career didn't end up so great,
So that's definitely a good one. And now, Aaron, let's get some of your thoughts on that, especially with soccer. Do you feel managers have to be more tactical in that sense and adjust their whatever they want to do to their system?
Say the second part of that again. I couldn't hear you.
Managers in soccer, you feel they have to tailor their system more to the players?
Well, let me think about that.
You look at a manager like Jose Mourinho, who runs a certain style with his players. So
Yeah.
the players have to basically fall in line with that. But then you look at other managers who, where a player might have a little more control, like PSG right now, where
I think it all definitely depends on the team as well. Team without the stars, without the ability to score goals, is going to play a much more defensive minded game, because their tactic is going to be to try to stop opposing teams from scoring and keep the score to a minimum and try and just get 1 or 2 goals if possible. So I definitely think it depends on, just like in any other sport, but soccer specifically, like you see in the World Cup too, you see some like really quality teams losing or drawing with, especially in the first round, with like a Saudi Arabia or a team that's not nearly as strong, and certainly lacks the type of players like a Lionel Messi or a Ronaldo, but they're still able to hang with them because of the way the tactics of the coaching and the way that they're able to.
Or they have terrific midfields like Morocco,
Like Morocco, yeah.
Morocco
Exactly.
was a surprise to everyone.
So you
They
have
had
to
a
play
talented
that.
midfield.
Yeah. But
I mean, Brazil was a good example. Brazil doesn't even have as star-studded a team as they once did, but they still pretty much lose like the third or fourth round almost every tournament.
right.
Except for the one they hosted.
Croatia, yep.
Croatia
Yeah,
always
they
does,
lost to Croatia on penalty kicks.
which was a fantastic game. Yeah.
That was an amazing
Even
game.
the final itself, which Argentina went going all the way to double overtime and then penalty kicks, that was an impressive game.
It was an amazing game.
It's
The
always hard
fact
to
that it
see
ended on penalty
see that
kicks
ended
and getting to see Messi
You got to stop moving that. All right.
and getting to see Messi go out with the World Cup was great, because it took him God knows how many tries to even get to a World Cup final.
right.
A few.
And at least now he gets to leave his club. He gets to leave when he does his soccer career with all the accolades of being club and having a World Cup, something that his country predecessor could never do, Diego Maradona.
Couldn't keep his hand off the ball, you know.
The hand of God, baby.
The
Yeah.
hand of God. Oh, yeah.
The hand of Abs.
Yeah.
All right, let's see.
Hey, Babs.
Uh,
Babs,
yeah.
I got time for like one more question, right? Then I got to run.
All right, make it,
All
a,
right,
good,
that's
make, it a,
fine.
make it a good one.
So the
No pressure,
last
make it a good one.
I
Yeah,
would
this is
like
it. This
to-
is it.
The last one for today is, have sports now in the last decade focused a little too much on political issues being thrown in there rather than, just focusing on the game itself?
Great question. I think everyone has an opinion here, but I think it's hard when you give players so much spotlight, right? You're on TV, you got the social network, the social media stuff we talked about, to not use that platform to say something if they feel strongly about it, it's kind of tough to say. I mean, man, that's a tough question because
I mean, you got a guy like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan
I
is
see it
still
both ways,
Michael Jordan's still ridiculed for not having a political opinion, but it's a both way thing because politics has taken, it's in the forefront right now. So it's like, you used to be able to watch sports to take a break from that, but there are
Correct.
things that need to be addressed, and
I also
what better
think
platform than sports? But it's also the same thing. All right, I need a break from all the politics because it's just it's nonstop, and sports was like that mindless thing that you could just tune out for a little bit. But
I agree
they
with
have the platform, and the things need to be addressed, obviously. But it's like, man, it's
I
tough.
agree with
Let me
Ricky
give
on
a
that,
good
but
example of this. Back in 2016, everybody went off on Kaepernick for taking a knee, which literally I think they missed the whole point of that. But, that's probably something he shouldn't have brought onto television. He did, and I respect him for it.
right.
And he still gets flack for it to this day.
I respected him until he took the money.
Yeah, before you go down the Kaepernick hole, here's my own thought. Right, a lot of these athletes who make statements, a lot of them don't have knowledge or background knowledge on what they're even talking about. So, I think
we use Kyrie as an example.
I think that's a hard. Yeah, right. Kyrie made a terrible mistake.
Kyrie
right, but
just does things for attention.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of times they say things without knowing the whole story or knowing the background info on it. So I would say maybe athletes might not be the best.
I'm guilty of it
I think we're all guilty of that, but they have a platform.
Yeah, athletes might not be the best. They might not be the best person to listen to.
As an example, who both made anti-Semitic comments at really off-kilter times. It wasn't a good look for either of them to do that.
I've said plenty of stupid things in my life that thank God I don't have the platform that these guys have. Otherwise,
you ain't on TV.
Exactly.
We were never on TV to be caught and then roasted by the public for saying that.
But
we'll just get roasted one-on-one.
But Vebs, for every cause, right? Then there is a lot of times they are able to use that platform for a good thing, which you want to support. You always think, hey, that's awesome. They could reach that many people and get that topic out there. I mean, so there's good and bad to it, just like everything else, right?
Yep. Oh, of course, there's pros and cons. That's the one thing that I can say that I enjoy with sports nowadays is they can say something and whether we agree with it or disagree with it, they utilize their platform correctly.
I think it's both too, right? It's the players but also the organizations and the leagues kind of, whether or not they really are out in the open and speak about, politics. They're very much so putting out, they're putting out their side of politics and the way that you see it too. So, I mean, even if like you think about the Pat Tillman thing in the Super Bowl, it's very much politically driven in a way of how they're framing things and so I mean everyone's sure they're going to be ridiculed either way, but I think because each side's going to take a stance and whether they have a a Democratic or a Republican or somewhere in between, either side's going to run with it and kind of condemn it. So,
Yep.
So
just like
for
anything
another,
else, just like anybody who's
Just
gonna
like
have
anything else. Yeah.
oh yeah, I have another top. We're gonna do more of these, of course, and another one that you just hinted at with the, is another topic I want to discuss later on with you guys again, and
It's cliffhanger.
the media.
Definitely. For tomorrow's meeting.
For the next definite meet, we're gonna probably wind up discussing sports in the mainstream media, which is one of Aaron's now big areas of expertise, living out in Hollywood as well. The media.
Not-
itself.
Oh yeah, I was gonna
All
say
right,
now
guys.
it's sports in the mainstream, but
I appreciate everyone for coming out today. I do.
Likewise.
A lot of fun today.
Hey, thanks for having us, Babs.
thanks for having
Of
us, Babs.
course.
Good seeing you,
We'll
boys.
get
Good seeing
together
you, Carter.
again. All right,
Likewise.
we'll get together again.
All right.
guys. Have a good
Much
week.
love, boys.
Later,
Much
Carter.
love.
Later, Coach Bergs.
See you, see you
Later,
guys.
Bergs.
Bye,
All right,
guys.
All right,
Yeah.
bye.
Later, Justin.
Later, Jess. Later, Babs.
Later. All right.
So,
And
so was Justin on that